The Trump administration asked the Supreme Court last week to reinstate abortion pill restrictions. The request was for the High Court to put back into place an FDA rule requiring patients take the abortion pills in the presence of a physician. A U.S. district judge in Maryland suspended the rule in July following a lawsuit from the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. The Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals declined to halt the judge's order while the administration appeals, prompting the administration's stay requests to the High Court. Abortion pills, also known as a medical or chemical abortion, provide a non-surgical abortion when a woman takes two pills containing mifepristone and misoprostol to end the life of her baby. Joining us now via Skype is Dr. Robert George, a professor of jurisprudence at Princeton University. He is a leading Catholic mind and top legal scholar. Professor, thank you for being here. First, what is your reaction to the Trump administration making this petition to reinstate abortion pill restrictions?
Well, it's necessary, of course, to do it because the decisions in the lower courts have been adverse. I expect the court to rule on it fairly promptly. It's hard to predict exactly how the court will rule. The record of the current court is mixed on these sorts of issues. Of course, this doesn't really get us to the $64,000 question, the real question that needs to eventually get before the court, and that is whether to reverse the decision in Roe versus Wade that constitutionalized the question of abortion in the first place and imposed on the entire nation, of course, the regime of legal abortion. So this is a skirmish in that larger struggle. We'll see where it goes.
Is it a successful strategy to try to advance the pro-life cause through the courts? What are the strengths and weaknesses of that?
Well, you have to work in the courts. There's no question about it. You need to protect unborn babies to the extent that you can, and you need to protect women from dangerous procedures. All of that is very important. There is also just the brute fact that the serious regulation of abortion to protect the life of the child is impeded by the Supreme Court's entirely unwarranted and unjustified rulings, beginning in Roe versus Wade, and then reaffirmed in Planned Parenthood against Casey, and again in more recent cases. Until those cases are removed, until the Supreme Court reverses itself, as it should, and surely someday will, on the issue, it very significantly limits the authority of states or the federal government and Congress to protect the unborn child legally.
As of recording time, President Trump has not yet released his updated list of Supreme Court nominees. How significant is this list and the role it plays in the 2020 election, particularly for Catholic voters?
It's extremely significant. It was a brilliant move, as it turned out, politically brilliant move by Donald Trump and his campaign in 2016 to commit himself to making Supreme Court appointments from a specified list. That gave tremendous reassurance to socially conservative voters, to constitutionalists, and especially the pro-life people who want to see the regime, the unjust regime of Roe versus Wade finally end. And then, of course, he made good on his promise to appoint from the list. It worked very well for him last time. He's remained faithful to it. I expect that it will do him a lot of good this time as well, politically. I expect the names on the list to be a very impressive list of names. Probably most of the names on the list will be people that the president himself appointed to the lower courts, especially to the U.S. Courts of Appeals. You'll see the name Amy Coney Barrett on there, surely. You'll see Amoltha Parr. You'll see Joan Larson, Allison Ide, Stephanos Bibas, Gregory Katsas, all outstanding jurists. Again, all of the ones I mentioned were appointed by the president himself, which I think makes it even more likely that he'll choose one of them. So it'll be an impressive list, and I think it can only help him politically.
Professor, as a leading Catholic scholar, what is your response to Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden, a Catholic himself, promising to codify Roe v. Wade if elected president?
It's disgraceful. There's no other word for it. It's shameful. Maybe that's the other word for it. But how can anybody who, as a Catholic, is committed to the proposition that every single member of the human family, irrespective certainly of race and sex and ethnicity, but also and equally irrespective of age, size, stage of development, or condition of dependency, is the bearer of a profound and inherent and equal dignity, a creature made in the very image and likeness of God. How can someone who professes as a Catholic to believe that expose an entire class of human beings to death, to the legally permissible killing by abortion to the tune of hundreds of thousands a year? This is a grotesque mockery of morality and certainly of the Catholic understanding of the moral faith.
President Trump has previously promised to only nominate pro-life judges to the Supreme Court. Can you speak to this concept of what is a pro-life judge?
Any president should appoint to the court true constitutionalists. I don't think presidents should be making commitments to particular issues. The commitment should be to appoint people who will faithfully interpret the Constitution as it is written and not use his or her authority as a pretext under the Constitution for imposing his or her own particular political or religious or moral beliefs. The reality, though, is that a true constitutionalist, anybody who could remotely be described as a constitutionalist, would do away with Roe against Wade because it's utterly unwarranted. It's utterly unjustified. In fact, it is an anti-constitutional ruling. So I think that what the president must mean, what I certainly hope he means in saying he will appoint pro-life judges, is that he will appoint true constitutionalists who interpret the Constitution as written, and that will certainly mean getting rid of many unconstitutional, anti-constitutional decisions, beginning with Roe versus Wade and its successor cases that have imposed the abortion license on the nation.
Dr. Robert George of Princeton University, thank you for your great insight and your time.
Thank you, Catherine. My pleasure.
We continue our conversation about the Trump administration's petition to the Supreme Court with our pro-life panel via Skype. Mallory Quigley is the Vice President of Communications for the Susan B. Anthony List, and Dr. Christina Francis is a board-certified OB/GYN and Chairman of the Board for American Association of Pro-Life Obstetricians and Gynecologists. Mallory, welcome back. What's your reaction to news the Trump administration is petitioning the Supreme Court to reinstate abortion pill restrictions?
Yes, well, I think this is a part of the president's commitment to defending life, to defending women. These existing FDA regulations are certainly not need to be strengthened, but we've got to maintain what we have in place already.
Dr. Francis, can you explain how the abortion pill works exactly?
Absolutely. So the abortion pill regimen is actually two different medications that a woman takes for an abortion within the first 10 weeks of pregnancy. So the first medication, mifepristone, actually starves that developing baby to death by blocking the actions of progesterone. And then 24 to 48 hours later, the woman would take a second medication, misoprostol, that will make her uterus contract, and she will then expel the dead baby.
Mallory, what have we seen from the abortion lobby throughout 2020 and the coronavirus pandemic when it comes to the abortion pill?
Yes, well, we see that our opponents never like to let a crisis go to waste, as they say, but they have been using the global pandemic to push increased access to abortion, and especially the abortion pill. Saying that this is a way to get women the quote-unquote help that they need. Although we know abortion wounds women and takes the life of their unborn child, we've also seen them using up precious PPE resources by continuing to stay open and do elective abortions while doctors and nurses on the front lines of this pandemic have been in need of that type of equipment. So it really gets to the heart of Planned Parenthood and the abortion industry truly being a business, a profit-driven, abortion-centered business.
Dr. Francis, this week we also saw Texas Senator Ted Cruz lead a group of 20 senators urging the FDA to classify the abortion pill mifeprex as a, quote, imminent hazard to the public health. Dr. Francis, from a medical perspective, what are the dangers of the abortion pill and the importance of maintaining restrictions?
Yeah, well, these restrictions are very important. APLOG always advocates for women to have the most excellent healthcare services available to them. And medication abortions are not that. They do not treat a disease. They have no health benefits to women, and they actually carry really significant risks. We know that the risks involved with medication abortions are actually 4 times higher than risks with surgical abortion. And the main risks that women face are hemorrhage and infection. And this can lead to the need for blood transfusions. It can lead to the need for emergent surgery. About 8% of women will need emergency surgery. And one of the biggest reasons that these restrictions are important is that they require the woman to be seen and evaluated by a physician prior to taking the medications. And this is really important so that we know exactly how far along in the pregnancy she is. The farther along she is in the pregnancy, the higher the risk of complications. It's also very important that an ectopic pregnancy or pregnancy outside of the uterus is ruled out. The real danger with that is that the symptoms of a ruptured ectopic pregnancy are pretty much exactly the same as the symptoms a woman experiences with a medication abortion, which are pain and bleeding. And if that ectopic pregnancy goes undiagnosed, that can kill the woman. And so it's really important that that's ruled out before she takes these medications. And if these restrictions are lifted, especially if they're lifted permanently, as the abortion industry would like for them to be, we are going to see women maimed, injured, and even dying, potentially in the thousands because of that.
Do you expect that abortion pill numbers have risen this year?
Oh, I'm sure that they have, because the access has been made easier, especially now with the lifting of the REMS, or the restrictions that govern their use. And we know over the last several years, in general, the number of medication abortions, point that now they constitute about 40% of abortions.
Thank you both for your insight. Of course, we'll continue to follow this story. Mallory, Quigley, and Dr. Christina Francis, thank you.